What's going on YouTube? It's Whole Shot News 54 here today, and I'm going to do a review of the Australian Grand Prix MotoGP from Phillip Island. In the background gameplay, I have MotoGP 15 and Crutchlow at the Sepang Circuit in Malaysia, where MotoGP will be heading this weekend. And if this video is long, there'll be another gameplay in the background. It might be a different track and a different rider, but we'll see how it goes. So yeah, Crutchlow dominates the field as Marc Marquez crashes out. Crutchlow secured his second ever MotoGP win after the Briton dominated the field to take a stunning victory at the Phillip Island Circuit. The LCR Honda rider was left clear in front when World Champion Marc Marquez crashed out of a comfortable lead with 10 laps to go. Yamaha's Valentino Rossi came home a distant second, with Suzuki's Maverick Vinales battling back from a poor grid position to a successive third position. Now, it was a crazy weekend this weekend, I'm not going to lie. We started off on Friday with severe rain showers. The MotoGP and Moto2 free practice 2s got cancelled. The rain was so bad. And it kind of, in some ways, made the weekend interesting and exciting because you're going to have all the good wet weather riders challenging for the win. And maybe you'll have the likes of Jorge Lorenzo, who would probably be lingering down the end of the field. But you'd have the likes of Jack Miller, Hector Barbera, Andrea Dovizioso, Scott Redden, Danilo Petrucci, even maybe Eugene Laverty, Yanni Hernandez. They'd be all battling at the front in the rain. But slowly as the weekend got through, you could kind of see that the rain was going to abide and Sunday was going to be a dry race. But I'll just give you a quick review of what happened in qualifying. FP3 was an hour longer to give riders a chance as the FP2 sessions were cancelled. So they got an extra feel for the track as it was dry at the start, but then many riders missed out as it started to rain. Mainly Valentino Rossi, Maverick Vinales and Jorge Lorenzo, because as it rains, all the fast times were just going to stay there because you go slower in the rain. So they were stuck in Q1. And it was Lorenzo and Crutchlow, shockingly, who got out of Q1, which left Vinales, Rossi, all them down in Q1. And Rossi eventually started for 15th on the grid and Vinales 13th. And then Marc Marquez storms the pole in a dry session. Mainly dry session, not really dry, but they're only two seconds off the best lap time. So yeah, it was pretty much dry. And you Crutchlow, who he didn't put in a slick tyre. Many people say he should have probably got pole. But anyway, we'll go to the race. And clear blue skies really greeted the riders. You knew the race was going to be dry. When you woke up and saw the Moto3 race, the race was going to be dry. And they took to the 27 laps. And it was going to be an unknown with many different tyre choices because Phillip Island, without rain, is a very cold track. Temperatures get really, really low. And as you saw in 2014, when it just dropped dramatically, all riders fell because the tyres were not hot enough to keep with the temperature of the track and just slid out of corners. But as the race got underway, it was Paul Espargaro, who was also on the front row. He got the best start. He really blasted past Marquez. And the fellas back down the field, like Rossi in 15th and Vinales in 13th, didn't really get the best starts. Lorenzo probably got the best start of all of them. He got from 12th to 9th into the first few corners. But anyway, it was Espargaro leading through the first few corners, but Marquez knew straight away he had a great chance to win this race, and he easily made his way past Espargaro. I think it was going through Lucky Heights, and once in the lead, Marquez looked really unstoppable. He just looked like he had the pace, as he had shown through qualifying and free practice, that he was going to go on and storm the race pretty much, and he immediately opened up the lead. Back down, Crutchlow, who got a really, really bad start. He bogged himself off the grid, but coming from 7th, he slowly sliced his way through most of the riders and was starting to charge at Marquez. And by the time Crutchlow got to the front, I think it was a gap about 2-3 seconds to Marc Marquez, but he was starting to make, the Briton was starting to make inroads. If he was slowly bringing it back, I think it was 2.5, and then it came down to 2.3, And then Marquez responded, but then the very next lap, Crutchlow set the fastest lap of the race by a mile. I mean, he was 0.5 ahead of Valentino Rossi, who was also charging at the time, but he was nearly 0.8, 0.9 ahead of Marquez, who was starting to look like he was struggling a little bit, but you couldn't really tell because the track was starting to get cold. But then 10 laps into the race, all of a sudden they cut to a shot of Marquez, and Marquez was sliding through the gravel. He crashed out of the race and after the race was only confirmed, due to a cold tyre. So with Marquez out of the race and the shock of it, this was Marquez's first DNF of the season as well. But it gave the lead to Crutchlow, who was also ahead of Elise Espargaro in second, who was having a blinder of a race, holding off Ducati's Dovizioso. But Rossi made his way past the two of them and slowly started on the way for Crutchlow. Now, in my honest opinion, when Rossi got past these two, I thought the race is over for Crutchlow, because Rossi usually in these moments pulls riders back slowly and gets his way and gets the victory. But Crutchlow just seemed to be on another level that day. He was extending the lead over Rossi instantly when Rossi got to it just seemed like Rossi could not match Crutchlow's pace. But the battle for third was the main one. Vinales was after making his way past Paul, who was now starting to show struggling, and he was closed his way quickly up to Elise Espargaro and Andrea Dovizioso, who were entangled in a big battle. I mean, two of them were just cutting each other back every single corner, and that was really making the show, because Crutchlow was miles out ahead and Rossi was just following him, and it didn't really make the race interesting, but third did. And there was a big battle going on for seventh, I think it was, between Redden and Bradley Smith, who was really cutting his way through the field. I think he was in last after the first lap, cutting his way through the field. And then you had Nicky Hayden, Jack Miller, Hector Barbera, and there was one more rider, Danilo Petrucci. And that was another great battle. That was making TV time very good to watch. So Rossi was charging, and he could not hold the pace of Crutchlow. And Crutchlow was starting to pull away, and I think it was with 5-6 laps to go. A rare mistake from Rossi. He went wide into Honda corner, and that really gifted the race to Crutchlow. Crutchlow now had a 6-second lead, and there was no real pulling that way back. So in the end, Crutchlow, his lap times did drop at the end, whether it was with nerves or whether it was with scared of falling, which you wouldn't blame, because you saw what happened to him in 2014 on the Ducati. He had a handy second place and dropped it, but he dropped off a little bit, but in the end he was still 4.2 seconds clear of Rossi, which is a phenomenal feat for Crutchlow, considering the bike. I know he's on it's basically a factory Honda, a little downgrade, but basically a factory Honda. But it's a phenomenal achievement for Crutchlow compared to the rider of the calibre of Rossi. And with this win, this is Crutchlow's second of the season after the first few races he had this season. Like, Crutchlow was last in the Drivers' Championships with 0 points after I think 4 or 5 races, and he was just having a third season. And many people thought he'd be the one to get sacked, because you can't be a MotoGP World Championship rider and be bottom on the bike he was on and in the team he was in. But I tell you, Crutchlow, ever since the summer, going into the summer break and coming out of the summer break, he's just improved magnificently. The confidence has been there. And that win in Brno really, really helped him. And it helped him today, gave him the experience. And with the win today, he became only the second British rider to win 2 races in the same season. Only Barry Sheene back in 1979 did that, which is some feat going. But anyway, back in the positions for third, the battle for third. Elise Espargaro was looking like he was going to take it, as he was cutting back on Dovizioso on the big long straight. And Dovizioso was getting him on the straight, but Espargaro was using the entrance into turn 2 to outbrake Dovizioso, and it was looking like that if Espargaro could just get the drive off the final corner, he could get to the line just ahead of Dovizioso. But then as Vinales was closing in, the pressure was getting on the two to kind of start pulling away. But when eventually Vinales closed, headed into Honda corner once again, the corner that has been the dreaded corner for many riders, Espargaro just locked the front and went down. And that was the end of Espargaro's race. So it was a shame for Elite because I really, really did think he was going to get it, especially after Motegi where he was in the battle as well, but it just fell away. But Vinales used his teammate's misfortune, I suppose, because that was one less rider for Vinales to get past, and he easily got past Dovizioso, well easily, and in the end pulled away from him and finished a brilliant third. And Vinales, who's going on the Yamaha next season, looks like he's going to have a storm of a season and could be within the challenging for the title soon. Even could be next season. It depends how he gets on, but I honestly think he will. Then way down the bottom of the field, you had Pole, who went around well, lonely enough, had really nothing to do, but he came home 5th, a good result for Pole. And then you had Scott Redden and Bradley Smith. Jorge Lorenzo was 6th. A real laboured ride from Jorge. Not the Jorge we're expecting. We're probably expecting a better Jorge in Sepang. Then you've got Scott Redden and Bradley Smith, the British duo. They produced brilliant rides because they got terrible starts and they were way down the field after laps 1 and 2 to finish 7th and 8th. Then you've got Scott Redden's teammate Petrucci, who's battling with Redden to get that GP16 next season, or the GP17. I'm not too sure, but they're battling on points. Whoever finishes ahead of the other rider on points will get that GP17, I think it is. So that's a really close one. I think there's only 10 or 11 points in that, so all to play for with 2 races to go. And then you've got local hero Jack Miller rounding out the top 10 with a bit of controversy though, as he did knock off Nicky Hayden. It was the last lap, I think it was, knocked off Nicky. So Nicky wasn't happy. He did knock off Nicky, so in the end it was a bit of a controversial top 10, but give him credit where credit's due. He's having a great weekend. Aprilia duo of Stefan Bradl and Alvaro Bautista finished 11th and 12th. A great ride from the 2 Aprilia riders who are really proving how good that Aprilia could be. They've tested it and they've really rode it to the top of its ability this season. Yanni Hernandez, Eugene Laverty and Mike Jones. What a season. What a 2 races he's had. Barely never ever raced a top bike like the Avinti at Ducati. And he's got points. Brilliant from Mike Jones. Came 15th with crashes, but sure, he stayed on the bike when he didn't have to. So great riding him. Also from Hernandez and Laverty, who are having... Hernandez not so much, but he's going to Moto2, so hopefully he can improve. Laverty having a storm of the season. Not having a great few races, but can improve. T.O. Rabat then finished 16th. Nicky Hayden got back on his bike and came home in 17th. Fair play to Nicky because he was in the top 10 and probably was going to get the top 10 finish. Hector Barbera crashed near the end, unfortunately for Hector, was battling for that 7th position. And Lawrence Spaz unfortunately finished, his race was finished after 3 laps due to an electrical problem. So really next up from MotoGP now is the Sepang circuit in Malaysia, and that has a new track surface, and with mixed conditions scheduled, forecasts, you just don't know how that race could go. Like there was mixed conditions forecast for this race, but it changed, and the same could happen for Malaysia. But this has been Whole Shot News 54. I hope you enjoyed this review. I know it's a bit long, but it was an interesting weekend. Thanks very much for listening. Please leave a like and share the video. Thanks very much.